Welcome to Bandit's Keep. I'm Daniel. I've talked before on this channel about illusions and the idea of them being powerful and kind of something you want to role play out more so than roll the dice, especially talking about illusions that NPCs or monsters have used against the player characters and that kind of stuff, like allowing player characters to figure things out. I've talked about it before, but I got a question, and this was a little while ago, and it's been kind of in my queue of things to talk about. How do you adjudicate illusions that are thrown by the player? Because when you're the dungeon master and you have an NPC throw an illusion, then depending on the situation, you can just explain the illusion as if it's real to the player characters unless they realize it's not, right? And again, I talk about that more in the other video. But in this case, you know as the dungeon master that the illusion is fake. So how do you fairly adjudicate and decide whether or not an NPC will get a saving throw, if they'll figure it out, and all that other jazz? So I'm going to dig into that in a couple of different ways in this video. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other questions, or maybe how you do something differently, or, the stuff that you put in comments. Anyways, the first thing I want to talk about is what exactly is going on. So whenever you're creating a rule, right, and this comes down to that, what's a rule, what's a ruling? I feel like illusions often fall into the category of rulings. You want a basic idea of how things work, but a lot of times there's going to be exceptions, and each case is going to be unique. The first thing I look at when I'm determining a NPC's reaction to an illusion is exactly what's going on. So imagine that there is a group of travelers, let's say the enemy of the player characters, going through the woods, and the player characters have been, following them discreetly, and the enemies set up a camp. They've got a campfire. It's late at night. There's crackling sounds. It's dark. There's a campfire. And the player character illusionist wants to cast an illusion of, let's say, some movement in the woods, let's say the opposite side that they're on. Or they want to do the sound of wolves or something like that. They're trying to break morale. Well, that seems very believable, right? If you're in the woods and this is going on, the enemy is already thinking this could be a thing, right? Something could be creeping up on my camp. So that seems very, very plausible, right? Now let's take another situation. A bunch of guards are chasing the player characters who have been seen stealing something in a castle. They run around a corner, and then they turn around, and the magic user casts an illusion of a lion there in the enemy's path. Now, when the enemy runs around the corner and there's a lion there, how plausible is it that there would be a lion, right? Where did it come from? Is this lion just out of nowhere? Is this common that there'd be a lion there? And I would say in that case, maybe that's less plausible, because they're thinking, whoa, a lion, what the heck? So this is kind of how we can weigh our situation. Is it plausible? Is it not plausible? And this makes your illusionist, whether it be the NPC casting it, right, doing it in a way that makes sense to the player characters, or the players doing it, they should cast an illusion that makes sense. Enemy chases them around a hallway, right, in a castle. They maybe cut down a side hallway and cast an illusion of a tapestry that's in front of them, right? Maybe that's more believable because maybe the guard doesn't realize one tapestry is off because, they're chasing somebody, right? So this might work in this case, right? It kind of comes down to the situation, and that's where casting illusions needs to be done with a little bit of thought. Because ultimately, and I didn't really start this way, but I'm going to say it right now, is I like to throw the dice as little as possible. So in these situations, I really want to look at it and be fair. So I want to really evaluate what's going on. If it's a good idea, it'll probably work. If it's not a good idea, it probably won't work. Anything in the middle, that's where the dice come out. As far as the dice go, if I was going to roll dice at all, again, I would only roll it if there was a question. If it's probable, and especially if it's very probable, then I would give a penalty to the saving throw of the NPC rolling, right? If it's not probable at all, I might just say it doesn't work, or that they get a big bonus to the saving throw, okay? Now, if you're not sure, right, if it's something that could be, maybe not be, what you could do is do something like an intelligence check, right? You could roll a d20 equal to or under the intelligence of the NPC to see if they get a saving throw. Not to see if they, question the illusion, but to see if they get the saving throw. And what you might do, if you want to really, be in depth here, is because you could, again, arbitrarily decide if you feel like you understand the situation, a bonus or penalty to that. But I think if you're in that situation, then you're probably not doing this check, right? If you kind of understand. So what I would do maybe there is have the player also do it. And then you can, if both the NPC succeed and the player, then maybe, look at the difference, right? So you can kind of weigh it to see if they'll get the saving throw or not, and then give them a saving throw if applicable. But the idea here is really to look at it in a logical way. Illusion should be cast in a way that makes sense. Now again, we can also look at an illusion as something that is a manipulation of somebody already casting a spell. That is to say, not so much that it's not known that something's being cast, but that they're doing something different. For instance, you may not have the spell Wall of Fire, but you have phantasmal forces. So you could cast an illusion of a wall of fire. How believable that is comes down to how powerful they think you are, right? How you present yourself. And in this case, you might do something with the charisma of the magic user. If they role play it out, then I would just go by that. But if they just don't role play it and just want to roll dice, which again, I advise against, then you might say, well, we're going to roll your charisma against their intelligence to see if you convinced them that you're powerful enough to do this thing, right? You could be a charlatan with this second level spell, which of course still makes you third level, so you're not a brand new magic user, but you could be pretending to cast all kinds of spells, earthquakes, cloud kills, fireballs, that you really can't if you can play it up well enough, right? So this comes down to, again, a lot of role play and a lot of figuring out what makes sense. So how probable is it? And who, I guess I should do this too, who is it that we're casting this illusion against? So in the case of the guard, right, if you have a bunch of green guards, maybe the lion would work because maybe they don't know if there'd be a lion there. Especially, let's say that you ran out of the castle onto the castle grounds and into a hedge maze. Don't run into a hedge mage. If you run into a hedge maze, then maybe you would, expect there could be a lion there. And a green guard might know that. But a veteran guard or a guard captain would know if there's a lion or not in there. So this is one of those things. Again, smart magic user might know that there's a lion in the hedge maze. So they could use an illusion of the lion to trick somebody who also knows it's there. These are the kind of things, again, where thinking about the situation and what's going on is important. If you're going to cast an illusion that your, copper pieces are platinum pieces against a merchant, that's less likely to happen than, let's say, somebody, that maybe doesn't deal with money all the time, right? They might immediately pick up the weight. They might feel something different. They might see something about you. So again, who is it that you're casting the illusion against? Who's the NPC? And how plausible is it that that thing is true? Turning a few copper pieces into gold pieces to hand to a guard to pay them off to get through a gate is probably pretty easy to pull off, whereas opening up a sack of, let's say, peas and pouring them on the ground and making them look like 1,000 gold piece diamonds is going to be way more difficult unless you know you're dealing with somebody who's especially greedy that just won't see through it, right? And this is where, again, being smart about how you cast them is valuable. So how do I adjudicate the player's illusions? I think about how the person in the situation would react to the thing that's there. Would it make sense to them that it's there, right? Again, why is this thing there? Why is there a dragon in the hallway? Why is Medusa walking down the street? Why is any number of things, 100 hellhounds pouring out of an alley? Why would that be the case? Is it plausible? Would the person believe it? What's their state of mind? Who are they? And then if you need to roll the dice, roll. But I wouldn't just automatically give them a saving throw. In fact, in a lot of times, I wouldn't give them a saving throw at all, unless there's a reason that they wouldn't believe. One final thing I want to add here is that just because an NPC believes an illusion, that is, fails their saving throw, or you just don't give them a save, doesn't mean they necessarily are going to act in the way that the player character wants them to, right? In the case of the lion, if we have a brave guard, they might just attack it, right? They might not run from it, which is your idea. Now, that still will slow them down around where they stab their spear into the illusion that's not there, and then the illusion disappears. But again, they're not necessarily going to turn and flee from the lion. It really depends, and in there you might want to use a morale check or something like that, right? Or the guard, again, if you change your copper to gold, they might take the bribe or might not take the bribe based on their loyalty. And again, how likely they are to believe that you're giving them gold probably also has something to do with the loyalty, right? And this is all what we want to figure out. So believing or not believing, getting a saving throw or not getting a saving throw, and then how they react are all different things. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Also, check the description. You'll find links to my Discord server if you want to talk about it more over there, and my Patreon if you want to support the channel. I'll talk to you soon.